elucidation from the Minister about that. Thank you.
Raymond Ho.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is regrettable because the Minister who's responsible for this particular bill, the Honourable Maurice Williamson, is not in the chair, and I do acknowledge the Minister in the chair is the Honourable Amy Adams.
Oh, yeah, no. I know what the member's saying, but he needs to be a little more careful about how he's saying. He did say he's not in the chair, and by inference that's saying he's not in the House. So just ask him to be a bit cautious about how he actually does that.
Because if he's in the House, he's got to be in the chair.
Yeah, right, okay. Raymond Ho.
Whatever, that's a technical part, because I said it's regrettable because I really wanted to ask him to correct the misleading statements made by some of his colleagues. And, well, at least one of them, well, it's very important for him to do so because that would affect the credibility of the National Party. Simply because... Do you think it's funny? I don't think it's funny. Well, in light of the contribution made by Jackie Dean, I think it's appropriate for me to restructure my contribution in light of her speeches just delivered, because she repeated some of the misleading statements she made during the general debate in the last sitting week, because she accused the New Zealand Labour Party or anyone who's opposed to this particular bill of anti-farmers or politics of envy. Well, that member will be able to confirm to this House that this particular bill affects only the high country Crown-owned pastoral leasehold properties. And how many farms this particular bill will be affecting? How many farms? Less than 220. Yeah, 220. Less than 220. And then that member is accusing Labour Party or anyone who's opposed to this bill of anti-farmers or... Well, this bill got nothing to do with New Zealand farming industry at large. This bill has got nothing to do with the productivity or business efficacy of our dairy farming sector at large. As I said, I think it's very appropriate for me to restructure my contribution in light of the statements made by Jackie Dean. Now, Ms. Jackie Dean, let's have a look at a Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment report 2009. Right? That report was entitled Changing in the High Country, Environmental Stewardship and Tenure Review. Now, it questioned the methodology of the current tenure review process and makes a number of recommendations. The Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment also proposed setting up a High Country Commission to provide more oversight of the high country. She also suggested a greater use of private governance to protect biodiversity on Crown pastoral leases. Now, Ms. Jackie Dean, could you please confirm to me or this House, does that make the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment anti-farmers? Right? Now, let's have a look. Now, let's have a look at the forest and bird position. The forest and bird approves a number of initiatives provided by this bill, but it does have a problem with lower rentals due to tenure review negotiations and the missed opportunity to put in place economic instruments that could benefit conservation values. I'm sure my Green colleagues will agree with me, and to avoid any doubt, I quote, a direct quote, "Why is the rental being simply constructed around basic pastoral farming earning value when in reality it is an economic pricing instrument that the government could be using to encourage good practice on pastoral lands. For example, it would be possible to have a higher base rental for pastoral lease that undertook conservation activity such as pest and weed control or improved public access, then provide an environmental rebate for this work, close quote. Now, does that make forest and bird anti-farmers? Great, thank you for your confirmation. Well, for the information of that member, this concept of encouraging good... Mr. Chair.
Raymond Ho.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, good call. I know Mr. Chair is very tolerant. Mr. Chair.
Point of order, Jackie Dean. I'm listening very carefully to your point of order.
Thank you. I sought the call because the member who was given the call clearly had yielded it to me by not saying anything.
Now, I'm the one who determines who has the call, and I've given it to Mr. Raymond Ho.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Continuing.
Thank you, Mr. It's very good, Chair, and thank you. I apologize for my remarks. Well, for the information of that member, Labour loves farming, Labour loves farmers, Labour do support farming sectors at large, and we support productivity and business efficacy, which in any way cannot be covered and will not be covered in this particular bill. So this concept of encouraging good behavior through economic instruments is not new. In fact, Professor Anton Meister at Massey University was advocating these initiatives 20 years ago. 20 years ago. I'm not quite sure whether Ms. Jackie Dean, the very fond member, has ever read this book by Dr. Ambroa. Have you ever read that book? Now, I respect her simply because she states that as an academic, her allegiance is to scholarship, theory, and the letter of the law, and not to interest groups. And shouldn't that allegiance be our allegiance as well? Absolutely, because, plus accountability and responsibility to the voters and to taxpayers and to New Zealand, not to the small number of farms affected by this bill. Well, Ms. Ambro, in her, to be fair to those who felt very strongly about her view or feel strongly against her view, I'd like to note the views of Professor Louis Evans and Professor Neil quickly as well. Dr. Broer, in her 2006 report, observed that the leaseholders are receiving both freehold land and cash payments from the Crown as outcomes of the tenure review process. But the High Country Accord requested the two professors, to review the assumptions, methodology, and conclusions. As a result of their review, they have concluded that Dr. Broer's concerns resulted from a series, I quote, series of conceptual and technical errors in the interpretation of pastoral lease rights, the tenure review process, and the data relating to its outcomes, close quote. The reason why I quote those different views is to show how to have a robust debate rather than presenting a misleading or mendacious statements, which is not helpful. Now, that brings me to another point. I think the minister responsible for this bill got pretty much all the factors right, but he missed and ignored just one important factor. That's non-pastoral values. Now, what this bill seeks to achieve, this bill seeks to change the rules for setting rents. for pastoral leases. Now, the rents will be determined purely on the stock carrying capacity of the land and not the value of the property or the non-pastoral values, which this Crown-owned pastoral leases or properties are increasingly purchased for. So that's the very important point I wish to bring to the attention to this House. Ms. Jackie Dean also touched upon the hardship. What I can confirm is the current rent is set at relatively low 2% of the land value. In addition, there is a mechanism to reduce rents in cases of hardship, but none of them has ever applied for a discount. So can that member confirm to me, and what was reason in cases of hardships and they haven't applied for a discount? The other factor I really want to touch upon, which I feel very strongly about, that is the Maori Reserve Land Act 1997. Now, Mr. Chair.
Jackie Dean.
Yeah, happy